The City of Phoenix holds community budget hearings throughout April, allowing residents to comment and make suggestions on the city manager's trial budget before final decisions are made. This public discussion is among the reasons the city's budget so closely matches the community's highest priorities each fiscal year.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry to break up the conversations, but want to welcome everyone here this morning. My name is Bill Gates. I'm councilman for Sunnyslope, very proud to represent Sunnyslope and excited to be hosting the very first budget hearing here in Sunnyslope. Only seems right. So we appreciate everybody getting up bright and early to be a part of this budget hearing. We have a lot of staff here today, so a lot of people here who can answer your specific questions that you might have. But most importantly, today is really about your opportunity to learn more about our budget and then to provide your input that you have at this point in the process. Now, for those of you who haven't been involved in the budget process before, the way that it works is our city manager, Ed Zerker, who's up here with me today. He works with all of our department heads. He works with the city employees to come up with what's called a trial budget. So that's kind of the first draft of the budget. And then that budget comes forward and he presents that, which he did last week, to the mayor and council. And then at that point, the budget goes out for 20 hearings around the city, just like this one. And this is your opportunity to weigh in on it. And then at that point, the city manager takes all of those comments into account and then comes with kind of a second draft of the budget. And then that is presented to the mayor and council. We get further comment from the community, and then we take a vote on that budget. But it is a process that involves 9 of us. That's the mayor and the 8 members of the city council. And I'm very excited today to have my colleague with me as well, Daniel Valenzuela. He doesn't represent this area right here, but he represents District 5, which is to the west of us. And actually, he and I both represent the Royal Palm area very nearby here. So we just thought it would be great to get together and do this first budget hearing as a joint hearing. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Daniel Valenzuela.
You know, it's great to be here. 7:30 in the morning. I do represent District 5. I live in the Maryville Village, and I feel bad for not putting the tie on. But these guys always look so sharp. It's great to be here in Sunnyslope in District 3. For those of you who live in District 3, I think you realize just how fortunate you are to have this man as your council member and your representative there at the city. So our district, District 5, goes as far east as 7th Avenue and as far west as Phoenix goes, about 115th Avenue. Each district, as you may or may not know, there are 8 council districts. Each of them have about 190, I guess, to 200,000 constituents, so very large districts. We work very well together. Councilman Gates and I, as he mentioned, we shared the Royal Palm area, and we enjoyed doing those types of things and working together on not just neighborhood issues, but important discussions like the one we are going to have today. Now, it probably, I don't know if it's already been mentioned, if you picked up today's paper, you noticed that as of midnight, the food tax was expired. And I think you can applaud for that. Certainly you can. Though I was not on the council when that discussion took place, I think it's a good news story, especially for our city manager and for those that were on the council. This is a case where the city council, one of many cases that the city council is keeping its word. A 5-year emergency tax, which sunset, and I think it's a positive thing. We are able to balance the budget, which is also a very positive thing. You may remember last year we had a deficit. We have some really important things in this budget. We have hiring of police officers, for an example. We have training for our police officers. And I'll let the city manager go through in a more detailed manner of what is in the budget, but I'm excited about it. Now, I'm also very excited to kick off this month's budget hearings, because for those of you, and I'm looking at some of our District 5 residents, for those of you who come out every year to multiple budget hearings, you realize that the end product, the trial budget that we are going to review today and the final budget that is voted on are two different budgets. This is an opportunity for us to really shape and mold our city, the future of our city, the present of our city. Where do we want the funds to go? What are the priorities? Is it police officers, which I truly believe it should be, police officers and firefighters? What is our economic development plan? What types of industries should we be striving for? What are important items to have in our community? I think we're actually in one of them right now. We need our community centers and our senior centers. We need after-school programs and our libraries, and of course, new streets and street repair, and the list goes on and on and on. But it's much like our own personal budget at home. We have to prioritize those things. And that's what this discussion is about. So thank you so much for coming out this morning. And for those who are going to be reviewing this, I think it may have been mentioned. If not, I'll mention it now. This discussion is going to be archived and something that can be emailed out, or at the very least, it's going to be on the city's website so people can actually go in and click on this particular discussion and figure out what was said in the Sunnyslope budget hearing right here in District 3. So I want to also, if I can just do this, can we give a round of applause to all the city employees that are here, beginning with our city manager. All right, thank you. I know it's appreciated, never expected, but appreciated. Thank you all for coming out, and God bless. I'll turn it over to Ed.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Councilman Gates. Let's give them a hand for hosting us here today. Thank you so much. We have an interpreter. I'm going to ask Judy if she would come up here for a minute and introduce herself to everyone. We'll take care of a few housekeeping items here, and then we'll get to the program.
Buenas tardes, me llamo Judy. Si alguien necesita intérprete, estoy aquí atrás con el equipo. Gracias.
Thank you, Judy. As the councilman said, this is one of about 12 or 13 hearings citywide, and you are the first, so congratulations. It is a regular part of our process to get feedback before a budget becomes final. We want to get as much input. We can't think of everything. Mario, our budget and research director, is really smart, and his staff, they're really smart, but we can't think of everything. So many times, and both councilman and vice mayor have often said, the trial budget always changes. They realize that. These hearings do make a difference. It is being taped as part of our efforts to make this available. So we'll ask when you speak. It might feel awkward, but if you would come up to the microphone and the podium, it's not to be too formal, but it's because the camera is able to catch you. This then goes online and is available to anybody in the city or anybody in the world who wants to hear what you have to say about our budget. And it also helps the council members because they can't be at all the hearings. Tonight we have 3 hearings at the same time, so it wouldn't even be possible for someone to hear what everybody says. But if they want to see what went on at Buff or somewhere else, they can go online and see it. So that's why we're a little more formal with microphones and podiums, but it helps everyone to see what you're having to say. We also are taking minutes, and those are also distributed to the council members. So today what we'll do is we have about a 10-minute video presentation about the trial budget. We would invite you, if you haven't already, to get one of these to take a look at. It's got more depth than is in the video. And then there's even more depth online in a big report online. So the more information you want, you can go deeper and deeper with this if you would like to. If you would like to speak, we'd ask for you to fill out a card. So right now I have 5 cards. So there's 5 people who would like to speak today. But if you want to, raise your hand and we'll get you a card to fill out so that we can get you in to speak. And as the Vice Mayor said, we do have city staff here. They are here as part of their work. They're here to answer questions. So afterwards, if you had something particular, you might have a city staff member come up to you and try and help you with a specific issue or concern that you might have. But thank you to all of our city staff who've come out this morning to our first one. So we've got people from every department in the city represented here. So with that, we'll go to the video. We then will invite you to give us your thoughts, question, comments, anything you have to say to us about what you've seen, what you've read, what you've observed in your time as residents of Phoenix that you'd like to see from the budget, and we'll just go from there. So with that, let's roll it. Gabe.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to one of a dozen hearings on the City Manager's 2015-16 trial budget. Input from our residents is so important and helps shape what will end up being the final budget for the next fiscal year. The final budget is important because it provides the plan for how the city will spend taxpayer money and how services that you depend on could be impacted.
I'm really pleased with this trial budget because it represents a year of really hard work. Leadership by the mayor and council to make some tough decisions, our employees who took concessions and who've worked hard to save money, and our partnership with our residents to bring a balanced budget for 2015-16.
Why is a balanced budget important? First, it's required by state law and city charter. Second, it means there will be no cuts to the city services that you count on every day.
I think it's important with this budget to know that we brought it into balance without cutting any services, and we can actually add some very important things for the community.
Even with state fiscal actions negatively impacting Phoenix costs and revenue, and with the sunset of the emergency sales tax on food on March 31st, the budget is balanced and important additions are being made thanks to the hard work of everyone.
The funding for the city budget comes from different sources. It's not all coming from one place, and it's divided into three main areas: the general fund, enterprise funds, and special revenue funds.
Examples of general fund city departments include police, fire, the library, parks and recreation, and streets. Enterprise fund departments include aviation, water services, solid waste services, and the convention center. Special revenue funds account for designated sources of money for a specific purpose, like sales tax dollars for the hiring of police officers and firefighters, and funds for public transit.
So when you look at all of those areas together, that's really the diverse mix of all the things that makes up our city budget.
The mayor and city council took action early on, leading us to a balanced budget. That includes eliminating 162 full-time general fund vacant positions last December. For a second year, additional employee compensation concessions at just under 1%. And over the last several years, the city has eliminated nearly 100 management positions and cut overtime costs by more than 50%. The efficiency efforts by city staff have been remarkable. The city is less than $2 million away from reaching its 2015 savings goal of $100 million over the past 5 years. The mayor and city council have also led reforms of the civilian pension system. In total, we can expect to see a savings of around $830 million over 2 decades, thanks to the actions already taken by the mayor and city council, along with the COBRA's board and voters. This will have a positive long-term impact on the budget, although there is still more work to be done. In addition, the zero-based budget review process, looking at every program, has led to $1.2 million in savings for 2015-16. Every line item in the budget was scrutinized, which allows the city to find ways to save. Among the savings, $600,000 by closing 2 courtrooms where the number of cases has dropped considerably. $225,000 saved in the finance department by relying more on technology and reducing postage costs for mailing monthly statements. $200,000 in street transportation by analyzing signage and determining which road signs are unnecessary to install, maintain, or produce. These are just a few of many ways that staff has found to improve efficiency. To see the full list of savings, check out the budget summary packet provided at these budget hearings and is also available on phoenix.gov. One of the biggest challenges the city faces this year has to do with what's happening at the state level. In an effort to balance its budget, the state has shifted costs and reduced revenue to cities like Phoenix. That has led to a $6.3 million negative impact on the city, which in turn eliminated a $4.3 million surplus, which would have been used to address important city needs. This created a $2 million deficit. To balance it out, here's what the trial budget suggests. Holding off on replacing some older city vehicles and equipment, along with slowing the growth of the city's contingency fund, which is still at its highest level in city history. Here's a look at the new services proposed in the trial budget. First, let's look at the general fund. The budget adds $14,000 for implementing full-time recreation at the county-provided Kofelt Rec Center. It's located at 19th Avenue and Buckeye. That means the existing rec center will be filled with kids year-round. In the area of innovation, the budget adds a business analyst to begin preparations for Phoenix 311, which would provide a centralized information center, as well as identifying technology needed to implement a unified municipal services card. And many residents feel that protecting the public should be the city's top priority. That's why public safety amounts to 71% of the general fund in this trial budget. This budget adds an additional $2 million for 40 hours of police officer training for every officer. Now to dedicated public safety special revenue funds. Due to the fact that these funds are now balanced, the budget includes the hiring of 110 police officers in 2015-16, which will increase the size of the police force from where it is today. The council also approved a plan to hire 90 firefighters next fiscal year after hiring approximately 75 this year. Now let's look at dedicated Phoenix Parks and Preserves Initiatives funds. Those funds would provide maintenance for 3 new desert preserve trailheads, creating more opportunities for residents to enjoy our preserved trails. From the Development Services Funds, which is paid for by building permit and inspection fees, is this proposal, making for a better customer experience in planning and development services with improved technology and training and more staff to enhance the electronic plan review section and the front counter service. Now to dedicated transit funds. The light rail is seeing more riders now than ever before. The proposed budget would fund rail operations for the new Northwest Extension to 19th Avenue and Dunlap. Out of dedicated aviation enterprise funds comes an important improvement at Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. It's one of the 10 busiest in the nation. The trial budget calls for the addition of a dedicated team at the airport to analyze impacts of flight activity, assess any proposed changes by the FAA, and to reach out to the community to solicit feedback and exchange information. Out of the solid waste special enterprise funds, the trial budget calls for operating a composting facility which will divert several tons of green waste per week from the landfill. That facility is scheduled to open next year. But the list of community needs continues. Among them, police body cameras, addressing homelessness, restoring library hours, after-school programs, support for arts programs, park maintenance, and street maintenance and street landscaping. Any budget requires trade-offs, and street landscaping is an example of that. It is important to keep our city beautiful and safe by making sure trees and shrubs along the roadways are maintained. Right now, that happens when residents make a report, but that could soon change. The council will soon vote on whether to bid for the service, which means the roadways would be regularly maintained 3 times a year. Although funding is not currently available to increase service, the Transportation and Infrastructure Subcommittee is also evaluating 2 additional service options. Monthly maintenance service at an additional cost of $1.5 to $2.5 million per year, or going to a blended weekly and monthly schedule at additional cost of $4 to $6 million per year.
So the 2015-16 trial budget is really good news. We've balanced the budget with no cuts to services, and in fact, we've added some things that are important to the community. But we always want to be looking ahead, and so we have a 5-year plan. We forecast ahead, and we see that we have some issues to deal with after this year.
One of the biggest challenges to the general fund, public safety pension costs. Much work has been done on the civilian side, controlled by the city, but the state-controlled system still faces challenges. This trial budget assumes phasing in added public safety pension costs over the next 3 years, allowing city services to be preserved. Also, revenue growth will be affected by actions taken by the state on income and sales taxes. The city is planning ahead on both of these issues and will work hard to address them over the next 12 months. Keep in mind, the budget hasn't been adopted just yet. Your input is important, and the City of Phoenix wants to hear from you on what the upcoming budget should look like. 12 public hearings will take place this month across all council districts, and you are encouraged to attend. You can also send your comments or questions to budget.research@phoenix.gov, or to reach out to us by phone, call 602-262-4800. You can also comment on social media by using #PhoenixBudget. Thank you for being part of a very important process. The City of Phoenix is committed to its mission of improving the quality of life in Phoenix through the efficient delivery of outstanding public services.
All right, so that is a quick overview, clearly an overview. There's more depth in the budget information handed out to you. And now, as we said, we'd really like to hear what you think, your suggestions, your ideas about trade-offs, whatever. If you have questions about what was in there, this is the opportunity. So as I said, we'd ask you to fill out a speaker card. I have 5 of those right now. If you'd like, we have one more there. Somebody, she'll grab that from you. If you don't have a card and you'd like to fill one out, raise your hand and we'll get that to you. And with no further ado, we'll go to the cards. And we will start with Lewis Howley.
I'm having allergy trouble this morning, so I hope you can hear me. I'm Lewis Howley. I live in District 3 in Phoenix, and I want to thank the council for their continued support of library service through good times and bad. Also, I want to thank the council for supporting the Sunnyslope circulator, which is a critical link for transportation in the Sunnyslope community, and it's vital to connect the library to the community. And I've been a user of the Acacia Library since it opened in 1969 when I was 12 years old. And before that, I used the Desert Mission Library, so I go way back. And I want to say that the Acacia Library is small but mighty. A lot gets done in that small space. There's a kids' cafe where kids get their meals every day. People are able to access the digital services that they might not be able to do because they can't afford a computer. Families can come to story times and also just participate with the interactive toys in the children's department. And it's a real sense of meeting place for that community. And for the future, I would just like to say that I would like to see, of course, Acacia's closed now on Sundays and Mondays. And it would be nice to see the library open every day that it's open. And that would be true for all Phoenix libraries as well. It would be nice if all of them could be open every day, especially since it affects the least advantaged in the community when they are closed. So thank you for your time.
Lewis, thank you for your comments. Really appreciate you coming out this morning. And thanks for your support of the libraries. All of us here are obviously very supportive of our libraries and doing everything that we can to extend those hours. And in particular as well, thanks for your comments on the Sunnyslope circulator. We had state funds cut several years ago, and it was slated to be taken away. And we worked with the community here, and there was really a groundswell of support, so we were able to continue it. And then a couple of years ago, we were actually able to increase the frequency of the stops with some, changes that were made in the route. So thanks for your support. It's something that I'm committed to. I've been out and ridden it before, and I've seen how important it is to this community. Next is Bob Belkey.
Good morning. I'm a native of Phoenix, and I've seen budgets come and go. And I think you are doing a great job. Just a couple comments. I notice here a lot of times what we're doing is we're helping out the city, but we're just shifting it to a different situation. So we're taking tax dollars from one pocket and putting it in the other pocket, which is good for the city, but somewhere down the line, it's still costing me money. There's a couple things that I'd like to address. One is the airport. I think the funding for the airport should come from the airlines. I realize it is a city-run organization, and they do a pretty good job. But let's collect the money from the people that are using it. Same thing with the transit system. Okay, the light rail. I think if we took that $1.2 million and let them process it whereby people would not ride free, not just jump on, make them pay as they go, I think it'd work better all the way around like they do in New York and the bigger cities. Right now, we have a tremendous amount of people that use it, that don't pay. And basically, that's about the size of it. I noticed whenever we cut the budget or we end up cutting out people. And that's not a good idea. Okay, rather than take and cut a budget for one area, that's fine, but let's cut that whole area. And let's not just fire the guy at the bottom, you know what I'm saying? Because then he ends up on the unemployment rolls and so forth. So if you want to cut your budget, cut it straight across the board 1%, and everybody gets hurt the same amount. That's all I got to say. And thanks again for your time and effort.
Thanks, Bob. I just want to make clear about the airport. You are right. The airport is paid for only by the users of the airport. There are no general tax dollars that go to the airport. The airport is funded by landing fees that the airlines pay when planes land. It's funded by the additional charges on a ticket that the federal government puts on there. It's funded by the parking revenue for people who park at the airport and the businesses who work at the airport. So that's how the airport pays for itself. It does not take money away from general funds. And we do hear you about the transit, the light rail, and so we have beefed up security in the last year on light rail for checking tickets, but that's something that we hear a lot, and we know we need to keep working hard at making sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to on the light rail. Thank you.
And Ed's heard that a lot from me on that light rail issue because that's a real concern of mine. Thanks for coming, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, I have the pleasure to ask Suzanne Thorane to come up and share her thoughts.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you again this year. And thank you for doing your very best to follow through with things that you've promised in the past, especially this past year. I'm very proud of the difference that we've seen. However, on the other side, we had the opportunity to, this is probably the lowest of my priority, but some of us had the privilege of riding and the enjoyment of riding the light rail down to the Irish Festival, which was just a hoot. And we got on at 19th and off on Central, correct? And we paid our fee. Well, the good news is it was clean, people were respectful and pleasant. It was a very nice experience. The place where you get on, those areas were clean. And I had the chance to, we saw some of the things that were along Central Avenue, and that was really swell to see. That was a really good feeling. But we never saw anyone who cared whether or not we had tickets, and we rode more than once. Not sorry we paid, and when we ride again, we'll pay again. But that's a lot of revenue lost, or at least it's some. And if you'd like to make a trade-off, we could probably muster civilians to go down and take tickets if we could use that ticket money in our neighborhood. Is that a bad idea? Seriously, the light rail does have good ridership even on the weekend, so that was really nice. And the city looked clean downtown. I'm excited about the firemen and the policemen, our first responders. There were a number of things that I thought were clearly represented in the film. I thought that was very well done. But here's where I'm going to ask that you just take some other considerations. I know that from village to village, there are different priorities and different needs. That was brought home to us last Saturday before last, when we saw the third of a series of young women. Are there any little kids in here? Who were under the age of, I don't have girls, the first ladies' underwear, okay, under that age, who were pushing grocery carts up and down the streets, selling fried corn from backyards, snow cones, fruit, all 3 times, with, not even sanitation, nothing. One of the 3 little girls didn't even have a telephone. We have a few open vacant houses in our neighborhood. Any one of those little girls could have been snatched for anybody's use. We stopped and spoke with all 3 of the girls. One said she was 21, one said she was 24. The third time we did call the police, and the young girl told the officer, "Oh, I'm 24," and he said, "That's funny, we all think you're not any older than 14, but she says she's 24. So he educated her, he said, and left. But before he came to speak to us, and I'm not complaining about that, all right? I'm not complaining about that, okay? But that little girl, that last little girl, left with the grocery cart full of trash, with no phone. Who picked her up? Somebody that was using her for funds off the street? Where will she be used next? Or, my gosh, is there any parent out in the area where we live who would put a tween? Isn't that what you call those? If you have a girl, isn't that before the ladies' underwear? Well, all 3 of those girls were in that situation. And our officers are so busy with drug issues and all kinds of things, and shootings and invasions and store robberies and all of those kinds of things, that to notice something like that, it's not that they don't notice, it's just how many times can you stop on the way to a shooting or a domestic violence issue. And so that's for us is a very serious issue, a very serious issue. We have discovered in some really peculiar ways this past weekend, or weekend before, yeah, this past weekend, we had a cleanup in our neighborhood, and we weren't home a lot of hours. And while we were doing this cleanup, 14 emails hit our next door site. Help me. Okay. And all 14, one person started with, who do I call about loud parties where you can't sleep? Or, and then it went on and on. And on that day, there were 14. And we heard from people who said, well, we tell them, make the calls. And if nobody's come in a couple of hours, make the calls again. And keep making the calls. I'm not complaining. I'm trying to say it's not enough. Quality of life issues, we're counting now more broken windows with tape on them. You have put millions of dollars into some of our neighborhoods that you thought might be sustainable. And we're grateful, and we do our blight, our graffiti, we do properties of the month to encourage people. In fact, yesterday, we met a young woman who moved into one of the beautiful homes, thank you, Erin, that the city had redone, and she was so thrilled, a man and a woman and their little boy, and the racket is so bad next door that now, and they did ask the people, could you lower? And the response back was, now they have regular bouts of busted beer bottles in their backyard, and it gets worse than that. So when the party starts, they have to they take their child to a grandparent's for the weekend, and they sleep on the couch because their bedrooms are next to that house. Our officers can't go to murders and shooting and domestic violence and handle all of these. So I don't know what I don't know what the solution is for that kind of, but there are a lot of quality of life issues, and I'm not advocating that you take money away from other neighborhoods, but every year when I see how much is poured into maybe neighborhoods that are absolutely adjacent to the city of Phoenix, and I understand that you want it to look as good as you can, close to the city where visitors come and where you market for people to come in and purchase or to build an industry or a business. I appreciate that, but if that risks tweens and the loss of sustainability in a neighborhood, or if there have to be some other things. There just must be. And the last thing that I would like to mention is it's not just the broken windows that the police aren't able to get. Thank God the fire department comes when anything burns, because we've had that too this year. And police officers have come. But do you know one of the people who made a call in about that loud noise was told by the Communications Bureau, oh, that's not a priority at all. And we had them come to our block watch in January. They're great people. They're overrun like everybody else. There are too many things. We don't have enough folks for Preservation,
Suzanne,
I
I'm
know,
sorry,
sir.
we're gonna, just because we've got others.
okay, preservation, public works, there aren't enough people, we're losing ground. And the last thing is, if we don't begin to partner the police department with Parks and Rec so that kids have something to do, might as well go into the business of tent city, because that's where we are there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. No, and I apologize. You're saying great things. We just have other heartbreaking stories that you were telling. You know, having two young daughters, they really are, and that's why we understand we're understaffed with the police, and that's why we have this plan in place. And I know it's not enough, but we are all committed. Unify. We're not unified on much with the mayor and council, but we are unified on this, that we're going to get you those officers. Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for your passion. Next is Kelsey Patton.
Work in tandem. Good morning. My name is Kelsey Patton, and I have the privilege of serving as the Vice President of External Affairs for the Arizona Humane Society. I'm very proud to be here this morning. We're in our home district, and our Sunnyslope campus is just right down the street, and we intake in that campus about 31,000 pets annually. And a special thank you to you, Councilman Gates, for being just such a wonderful champion and advocate of ours. We really appreciate your service to our community and doing such great things and supporting us. Every pet deserves a good life, and it's really this passionate belief that drives the Arizona Humane Society to serve a critical role in our community for nearly 60 years. We rescue, heal, adopt, and shelter, and advocate for homeless, sick, injured, and abused animals. Through collaborative partnerships, affordable community services, our emergency rescue, and our trauma center, we're truly committed to providing second chances and saving the lives of animals. While many Phoenix residents know to call the Arizona Humane Society when they see a sick or injured animal, most are really not fully aware of the critical role we play in animal cruelty cases, often serving as the first responder. Last fiscal year, our emergency dispatch responders received nearly 8,000 calls for reports for animal abuse or neglect within the city of Phoenix alone. AHS responds to calls from the public, police, and fire departments and other agencies, and it's our emergency animal medical technicians that initiate the investigation. Our EAMTs make contact with pet owners to determine if there's an issue concerning an animal's welfare. In some cases, and in best case scenarios, we offer education on proper pet care. But in other unfortunate situations that require us for an owner to surrender a pet to our organization, or in worst case scenarios, to confiscate an animal who is in a dire situation. Working collaboratively with the police department, we then provide appropriate veterinary care and housing for pets that are held in protective custody. The extent of our commitment, however, does not end there. We assist police in preparing cases and testifying in court. Believe it or not, as you know, we currently have a case involving dozens of cats that has gone on for nearly 2 years. It's truly heartbreaking to witness the work that our EAMTs do on a daily basis. But without them, we certainly would not be able to provide this invaluable service to the community and really do what's right for companion animals. Our dedicated EAMTs are a key part of our mission, and their work really does make a difference. We have enjoyed a really great working relationship with the City of Phoenix Police Department and the City Prosecutor's Office for over a decade now. We really appreciate the city's continued dedication to prosecuting animal crimes and your continued support of the work that we do. Together, we can save more lives and witness happy endings. Thank you.
Kelsey, if you can just come back to the microphone. Thank you so much for coming out and for all that you do in Sunnyslope and throughout the city. So, you know, before you came to see me, I wasn't aware of the work that you guys were doing with the Phoenix Police on all these animal cruelty cases. You said get about 8,000 calls a year.
That's just for cruelty investigations.
And again, you're working with us, and what is the city of Phoenix providing to you? What do we pay you for your services right now?
Nothing.
Okay. Yes, that's.
But goodwill and a great partnership,
And we appreciate that, but I think it's very important that people understand, because I didn't understand you're doing this incredible work for the people of the city of Phoenix without being paid for it, and I think that's something that we ought to be looking at very closely. I know you have a lot of supporters out there, but those of us here at the city, we support you as well, and would like to see if that's something we can look at in the future.
Thank you. We very much appreciate that.
Next is Judy Giles.
Good morning, Councilman Gates, Councilman Valenzuela, City Manager Zerker, and members of the community. My name is Judy Giles, and I live in District 3, and I'm a member of the Phoenix Arts and Culture Commission. First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Zerker and staff, for working so diligently to balance the budget for the coming fiscal year so that we will be able to continue making grants to arts and culture organizations in Phoenix. As you know, but perhaps those in the audience do not, local nonprofit arts and culture is a $300 million per year industry that supports over 9,000 full-time jobs and generates at least $14 million in tax revenues every year. Arts and culture also drives tourism, as high-dollar travelers come to town to see our arts and cultural offerings. Recently, Travel and Leisure magazine named one of our icons one of the most beautiful in America. That icon is the Desert Botanical Garden. The Phoenix Art Museum, Musical Instrument Museum, and the Heard Museum are three very high-profile facilities in the museum world. All four of these cultural sites have been recipients of grants from the Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture. But we also grant to new and evolving organizations, and we help to educate the public about issues like the fact that the arts improve academic performance for children. Again, I thank you on behalf of the Phoenix Arts and Culture Commission and the members of the arts and culture community for whom we advocate, for continuing our budget allocation for the fiscal year 2015-16 grants budget. Your support, both in the monetary sense and as audience members and supporters, is helping us make Phoenix a destination in the arts and culture world, and allowing the Office of Arts and Culture to be a support to organizations both large and small. Thank you all so much, and we appreciate everything that you do for the Office of Arts and Culture.
Judy, thanks for coming today, and thank you for your service on the Arts and Culture Commission. We really appreciate it and know that it's an important part of the fabric of this community, so thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Terry Carnicelli here. And as Terry comes up, for those of you who haven't had a chance to check it out, get the latest copy of the North Central News, and Terry's a reporter for that publication. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, I'm actually the editor of the North Central News, but it's all the same because it's a staff of 1.5. So, but we do have a rack out here in the lobby. So, but I'm also a 12-year resident of Sunnyslope, and I am part of the Village Center neighborhood and was happy to serve on the Neighborhood Association Board a few years ago when we had those signs, street signs, identifying it as the Village Center neighborhood made through the city as part of a grant. So I'm aware of the fact that the city does manufacture its own signage. And so my question is actually related to the elimination of funding for the purchase and assembly of those 15-mile-an-hour school zones that the city has been doing as a courtesy for school districts. As you know, the schools aren't exactly rolling in dough right now either. They've been receiving severe cuts for the last several years from the state as well. So I'm wondering if you had given any thought to perhaps working with the schools and the school districts to offer them a at-cost service to manufacture those signs in-house. Maybe they have to purchase the stands, but doing it as a way that it doesn't cost the city any money because the schools are paying for it, but the city can offer it at their cost to the schools, so the schools at least aren't going to be hurt financially as much as if they went out and tried to purchase it from commercial businesses. That is my question. Have you looked into that possibility?
I don't know that we have, but that's why we have these hearings for ideas like that, and we will certainly do that.
Okay.
And evaluate that.
Then
Thank you.
I will be following up with you about
Wonderful.
that.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Terry. I really appreciate that. We know our schools need help now as much as ever, so thank you so much. We're down to our last speaker card. If there are others who would like to speak, please feel free to fill out a card. But the last speaker, at least for now, is our good friend Jim Apstead. And activist, leader extraordinaire in Sunnyslope Village Alliance, and the owner of the Accurate Signs and Engraving, which has a great new location and is going to be hosting, sorry, I'm just going to keep going here, hosting my next coffee chat, which is going to be next Tuesday, April 7th, 7:30 a.m., and we're going to be checking out his new solar installation that he has over there. Mr. Mapstead.
Thanks. I'm curious as to, could you share with us some of the conversations that are going on both at the city council level and, Mario, in your office? Pension reform is the looming big issue. And my concern as a businessman, obviously moving forward, I so appreciate the fact that we're adding first responders into this year's budget. That is great news. My concern is that pension reform and the costs associated with that are going to be significant in the coming years. And I hate to see stuff added on to this budget. And I know that you don't take a short-sighted view of this budget, that there is more long-term planning on. But I'm just curious as to what if you could share some of the conversations, how are we going to balance the budget over the next 3 years with the pension expense that we have coming up, and then moving on beyond that? Share with us either on the revenue side or the expense side, what is projected to be cut or what kind of revenue is going to be coming down the road?
So good question, Jim. As you noted, the video talked about there's a 3-year phase-in of public safety pension costs. So in the state, and the state legislature controls the public safety pension program. So at the state level, there was some reform passed maybe 4 years ago that was overturned by the Supreme Court. Right. And so there's added costs that we have to go back now and repay the cost of those reforms that we're stepping into over 3 years so that we have time to deal with it. And so your question is, what kinds of things are we looking at? On the expense side, we've been looking constantly and will continue to at things like how much we have to pay for health care, how do we do our collections of delinquent accounts payable to the city. We call them, there are accounts receivable. And so lots of things like that on the expense side that we're looking at, and also on making sure we're collecting the revenue that people owe but haven't paid to us. The State Firefighter Association has some proposals for reforming the state public safety pension that they have proposed to the legislature. And so we really need to work cooperatively with the state as there are ideas brought forward about those reforms. The only thing I would say is we need those reforms to be done in a way that's constitutional and legal, right, so that we don't have to go back in time and repay attempts to reform it. So I really think you're going to see efforts over the summer at the state level to do that. But I would defer to the council members who both have different parts of their expertise that apply to this specifically.
It's a great question, Jim, because I mean, when it is true, we have a balanced budget this year, and that's great, and I thank Mr. Zerker and his whole team for getting us there. But moving forward, we are facing deficits, and the biggest, you can point simply to the increase in the PSPRS contributions as the driver of that. So my opinion, I applaud the firefighters for stepping up with a proposal, but I believe at the state level we need everybody at the table. In deference to the governor, this year was about getting the balance, getting the budget balance, getting structural balance, but then moving forward, I encourage him, and I have encouraged him, and I'll continue to encourage him to get everyone together and come up with reform there, because we literally, the state, you as taxpayers in the city of Phoenix, you have to pay for the pension for police and fire, but we don't get to set that amount. It's set by the state. So we have to work with them, encourage them to come up with reforms. But then it's not just, we can't just say, well, that's it. We have to look at ourselves. And I'm very excited about some work that we're going to be doing on healthcare costs. We're going to have a meeting of the subcommittee that I chair, the efficiency subcommittee that the vice mayor is on as well, where we're going to spend the whole meeting just talking about some innovative ways to lower healthcare costs. So I think that's going to be great. We need to push with further efficiencies. You saw some of those in the video. And then something that I'm excited about is we as a council have decided to get together and form a strategic plan, something we haven't done. Great. It was done at the city manager level by David Cavazos, but there's never been one since I've been on the council done by the mayor and council. We're going to do that. It's going to happen in the fall. And I think that's going to help us to really identify, okay, what are the key things? What are the strategic things that we have to do, that we must do? And out of that, I think we'll find some savings as well. So there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle, but thank you for raising this. We can't just sit here and pat ourselves on the back and say, oh, well, the budget is balanced this year. And I know the city manager isn't doing that. He's looking to the future, and all of us are as well.
Yeah, and I applaud Brian Jeffries' efforts. He's been talking about this for years, about reforming it at the state level, but we need to act on it.
Yep.
Sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate the question also, and I'm glad that you're here, because we wouldn't have this conversation, or potentially, had you not filled out that card. So thank you, Jim, for doing that. One of the takeaways that I think everyone needs to take away is that there are two retirement systems here. One is COPERS, City of Phoenix Pension Employee Retirement System, which is the retirement system that we, under our purview, can actually help shape and mold. Of course, with the, with your authority, because it has to go to the vote, okay? And the other is the public safety retirement system at the state that we, us, here at the city, constituents, taxpayers here at the city are on the hook for. But I think it was, I think Councilman Gates just said it. It's one of those things that we do not have the purview to put our hands in. That has to be done at the state. So I'll tell you what we can do and what we have done. For the COPERS retirement system, many of you, probably all of you, are city voters, and you'll remember in March of 2013, the ballot that came out to reform pension. I had the honor, I had the privilege and the responsibility to help lead that effort, and it passed with a very high majority. We're talking somewhere nearly 80%. And because of that, and it was on the slide in the video as we started, it's going to save about $800 million over the course of a couple of decades. You did that. That's what we were able to do. That unfunded liability that we hear so much of, well, guess what? We have a handle on it, okay? What we don't have a handle on is what we don't control, which is the state public safety retirement system. Now, the name Brian Jeffries was just mentioned. Brian Jeffries is the president of the Professional Firefighters of Arizona. He's a good friend, and and Brian and the firefighters and the police officers are, are proposing a pension reform effort that would look somewhat the same of what we've done for the COBRA system right here in Phoenix over at the state. If it works here, why not work there? So what we can all do is call our legislators, ask them to take this item very serious. Of course, we can call our governor, but every one of us have 2 state representatives and a state senator. So we can make a phone call to find out what the conversation is. For one, I'm optimistic that the conversation is happening. I know it's happening, and I'm appreciative of that. So that's really important to note. Again, in the COBRA system, what we can control here at the city, we have, in fact, this August, there'll be another measure on the ballot which goes a little deeper, which saves an additional $40 million. And that's up to you, and whether, of course, it's up to every voter on whether to support that or not. But that's another effort that we are looking at with what we can manage, which is, again, the COBRA system. The public safety retirement system, we're on the hook for it, but we need the state legislators to act on it. I'm optimistic. I believe it's going to happen. Now, what else can we do? Jim, you mentioned what other revenues are being considered. Another takeaway I want to mention is this budget that we are balancing. We were slated last year. We were slated to have a deficit this year of somewhere in about $34 million. And we're balancing the budget because of the concessions that were made. We have about 14,000 city employees that took a pay cut, essentially, a 2-year pay cut last year and this year. The 162 positions that were swept, that were on the video there. Several very, very tough decisions had to be made to get us to a point of balancing this budget, and we made those tough decisions, okay? Now, something that we are not talking about that we really should be talking about. When we are moving an economy forward and moving a city forward, there's a couple of ways of doing it, and while some may feel that the best way to do it is to cut our way to better days, I believe we need to grow our way out of better days. There's an initiative that I'm proud and honored to help lead, which is around entrepreneurship right here in the city of Phoenix. With Chris Mackey, among others, who's our economic development director, we have a lot of jobs coming to Phoenix. There's a very, there's a goal here, and it's not the most conservative goal, but to gain 5,000 enterprises in the next 5 years. I'm calling it 5K5Y. For those who are on social media, hashtag 5K5Y, and take a look at it. It's a more comprehensive plan than just announcing 5K5Y. You can contact my office. We'll get you some information on it. But these are jobs coming to the city of Phoenix. Major announcements are being made. Just about 2 weeks ago, we were able to land one of the most successful angel funders, angel investment groups out of Canada. They wanted to expand into the United States, and they chose Phoenix above everyone else. And they're here to help with those types of investments. And more will come, I believe. So those are the things that we are doing every day right here in the city of Phoenix to help grow our economy, which will help, the general fund, which will help our tax base, which will help pay for a lot of this stuff. So while we continue to get and to stay efficient, it's the right thing to do, calling on our legislators to do the same, it's important to remember that we need to grow our way out of this deficit as well, which means, it's about jobs. Thank you.
One last thing. Can we save money on postage by having my water bills emailed to me instead of mailed?
Yeah, you can actually. Actually, I do. I get mine. I've been getting mine emailed to me for years. So we'll work with you to make sure. Catherine Sorensen with the Water Department knows I've been hammering on this for years. I couldn't agree more. But yeah, you can actually do that now. So we'll make sure that we take care of that.
Thanks for what you're doing too.
Thank you. Thanks for all you do in the community. Any other speakers? Those are all of our speaker cards thank you to everyone who came out. I want to thank my staff and everything they do for District 3, my Chief of Staff, Laura Eder. And then, did I see Dominic here as well? Dominic, Papa as well from my office. Thank you to both of you for all you do. Thank you to the wonderful folks here at the Sunnyslope Community Center. They're amazing. The Senior Center, this is a wonderful place in our community. Our officers who are here, thank you so much for all you do to protect our community. And I know the Vice Mayor has several budget hearings coming up. I've got another one coming up on April the 8th. If you didn't get enough this morning, April 8th, an evening one for the Night Owls, 6 to 7, with the hardest working man in show business, Councilman Jim Waring. Paradise Valley Community Center, 6 to 7 on April 8th. Want to thank my colleague, Vice Mayor Valenzuela, for being here. Didn't get a laugh on the Jim Waring line. It's probably too early. I need Jim next to me because then he makes all these contortions and stuff, and it's a lot funnier. And then, yeah, there you go. Thank you. There we go. And thank you, City Manager Ed Zerker, for everything and your entire team. Have a great day.
You've been watching a community budget hearing held recently in Phoenix. For questions, comments, or ideas, please visit phoenix.gov or call 602-262-4800. You can also send feedback or videos through social media at #PhoenixBudget. This video can also be seen online at phoenix.gov/11 or youtube.com/City of Phoenix AZ.